Today we're going to talk about freeze protection. The reason why we're having this conversation is that I had my pipes frozen. This is my outbuilding right here. As you can see, I've got well equipment where it stores the water and also pipes it to my house. Had several of those polyethylene, actually cross-linked polyethylene pipes froze about a week ago. They expanded and they just froze solid, and I wasn't able to get water into the house. So let's take a look at the piping and then we'll fix it. Here's an overview of my well system. Okay. As you can see, I've got a storage tank because I don't get a lot of water coming from the well. It's only 5 gallons per minute. I have 2 filters. One of them is a water softener, which is a filter, and the other is an iron filter. Let's take a look at the piping. Okay, the piping comes from the ground right here. Goes behind that 6x6. If you were to walk on the other side of this, a little bit hard to see, but it comes behind that 1-inch pipe underneath there. You can kind of see the pipe underneath where it goes across, and then it comes up in a sweep into the tank, then back out of the tank. Right there, that little T goes to irrigation, which is unfiltered water, to a valve, back down to the ground, and then from there it goes to that T underneath to the reservoir tank right here, and then from the reservoir tank it comes back out. Actually, it doesn't come back out of the reservoir tank. There's a T on the bottom right there that goes to the first filter. Reservoir tank is nothing more than a pressure vessel. So, as you can see right there, that white line coming up with not the Propex fittings, but the other types of fittings, which is a compression fit, goes back to the back side of this tank, goes up to the back of this head of this sediment filter, comes back out of the sediment filter, back down, back across, behind the pressure vessel, and then goes into the water softener head, and then back out of the water softener head, which is this pipe right here. And then you can see it turns into back to PEX again, a clear PEX versus the white PEX, then comes back on the other side. This time it's on top right here, and then it goes to this 1-inch valve right here, then comes up across, turns to 1.25 inches. That 1.25 inches goes down underneath through that black pipe right there underground to the house. There's a T right there at the bottom which goes to the shop bathroom that I have, and that little service sink. And you can see some of the piping has been insulated. The project today is to put heat tape on the piping. And this is the brand that I'm using. And the little guy right there is a thermostat that you plug into the wall, which triggers the heat tape to come on if it gets too cold. And then the insulation, which I'm going to cover it and finish the job. the goal is to completely insulate all the piping in this outbuilding. The goal here is to follow the heat tape in the exact path as the water flows through the system. So as you can see right here, here's the pigtail for the heat tape. The roll of the heat tape right there, the instructions, and the thermostat in its box still. Okay, we've fished the heat tape its length to the back side of this post and along the feeder pipe, and it comes out on the other end over here. It's following it along. You'll notice right here I'll have to drill some holes. So we'll get back to that in a moment. And then I moved the brine tank out for ease of taping this and securing it to the pipe. And then we'll go from there. As we get started, you can see right here that the beginning of this wire goes in this sleeve right here, and I have zip tied the first connection right here. I'll zip tie another connection along this section of the pipe, then I'll start again on the other side of this 6x6 for this pole building. Okay, so we've gotten this far next to the tank. So now we have to figure out how we're going to get these things through these holes. Okay, we got two of them. So are you going to Elmer Fudd this thing and drill next to the pipe? No. We're going to stand off the pipe just a little bit, drill the holes, and then just chisel out the piece. Same with the other side. I'll show you what that looks like after I'm done. Okay, we're drilled alongside here. Same thing holds true with other tools. You start off small, then you go big if it doesn't work. Okay, we accomplished that task. If you take a look, beautiful. Over this one. That one also works out really well. We'll get that heat tape against the pipe as it comes up. So good job. Continue on. Okay, so now that we've got the heat tape on this part of the loop, as you can see right here, there's no piping in between the top of the tank, so it just goes exposed. And then it goes to the return line, back over to here. And then if you take a look over here, you'll notice that I stopped it right here. And the reason why I've stopped it is because I'm going to take it out to this irrigation line. Let's get back up a little bit so you can see it. And there's a valve right there. I'll take it a little bit past the valve, make sure there's no problems. And then later on, I'll put a drain down valve right here so I can empty the water that comes from this line that goes up overhead, blah, 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 to the irrigation system. Okay, got all the heat tape on. Let's take a look and see what we did here. As you can see, it's plugged into the outlet. Seems to be working. Okay, let's take you through where we were before. We come up out of the ground. We go low against that bottom plate there, behind. Down low again, underneath the bottom run. Comes up over here, goes up, back, returns, small little bit of loop out to here, to the irrigation, goes down again, and on this side, from there comes up to the back side of the this first media filter. then back down again, crosses over the top, and by the way, bad piping job, boys. Then come over here, goes down to the back down there, comes in on the left side right here. Is it left? Comes in on the right side, goes down on the left side, and then it goes back over to back behind here again, where it comes to the T. I go up the T, down, and then that's the water supply to the house. Had a little bit of extra, so I took it out to the bathroom, which goes down this direction, and I've got 2 extra feet right there, which I'll cover with that insulation that's behind. And then that is done for this. What I'll do now is I will duct tape the heat tape against the pipe so I have better coverage. You'll see that on the next one. Okay, the duct tape now is completed. The object of that exercise is to firmly place the heat tape against the pipe to make sure it is effective in warming up the pipe to prevent a freeze leak. As you can see, there's a lot of duct tape. Getting behind here was no fun, but it needed to be done. Okay, now we're going to move on and we're going to start our insulation. In starting the insulation project, you need a few tools. Tape measure is one, your insulation is another. A hacksaw blade I found is the easiest method to cut foam insulation. You can see how that foam looks like that. So that's the best, and of course you have some duct tape here. Now this insulation has a self-adhesive inside. Doesn't work exactly as it should. It comes apart a little bit, so then we will be helping it with some duct tape. So let's get started. First is we're going to start back where the water piping begins. Is that double connection right there. We'll go behind this 6x6. Always get your lower insulation done first. That way the stuff that sits on top of it's not going to have a hard time. You won't be fighting yourself. But given all of that, this is not going to be very easy. Okay, so let's get started, and I'm going to save you with how I put it on, but I'll show you what it looks like when this little piece is done. Okay, we have insulated that lower line. If you take a look back there, you can see it running against the building. And we'll take a look at the other side, see what it looks like. Comes along the bottom there, sweeps up, comes over to the valve. Let's talk a little bit about this insulation. The purpose of the heat tape is to provide heat to stop freezing. The purpose of the duct tape holding the heat tape against the pipe is to ensure that heat is being transferred to the pipe. The purpose of the insulation is to stop thermal dissipation. In other words, you want to hold that heat into the pipe as best as you can. So that's what we're doing here and why we're doing it. One more item about insulation. When you have thermal tape against the pipe, you must increase your insulation size at least by 1/4. So a 3/4 inch pipe would have 1 inch insulation. A 1 inch pipe would have 1.25 inch insulation, and so on. For me, I ordered all 1 inch insulation. So I'll have to MacGyver some of this stuff together in order to get thicker pieces, since the supply side of this wasn't accommodating for me, so I have to make it work. This is an example of what I'm talking about when putting the 1 inch pipe insulation. Now, one thing you also have to consider is that PEX has a thicker wall thickness than copper, let's say. So in this case, I now have to go 1/2 inch thicker in my insulation in order to make the bond work. This is that same section fitted. Let's go up there and take a look at those joints. Okay, now we'll tape it and seal it up. All right, so this is what it looks like when it's finished. Sorry, I didn't want to bore you with all the small cuts and colorful language that it took to get this stuff in this tight space. But this is over the course of 2 days installation, so it's done now, and I'm pretty happy with it. It just took a lot longer than I thought that it would, but it's done.